Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis Me once again. And oh my god, what a year it's been for video games. I mean, there have been so many great games to come out this year that I have pretty much been very busy with that and other things as well. But now, it's that time of the year where I talk about my top 10 favorite video games of 2023. And I was this close to making it a top 15 because it's honestly been such a good year for games, despite controversies, and of course, those occasional terrible games to come out, like Gollum, Walking Dead Destinies, Skull Island Rise of Khan. But because there have been so many great games to come out this year, I made a list. Like, I had to write down all the games that I played on a piece of paper. I haven't even played all the games I want to play yet. Like, I haven't played the Mario RPG remake, but I really want to play that, so yeah, that's an honorable mention because I heard really good things about the game. But in terms of the games that I have played, of course, before I get into it, like I mentioned before, because there were so many games I played, of course, there will be some honorable mentions. And those honorable mentions are Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Hogwarts Legacy, Pikmin 4, Sea of Stars, Starfield, Lies of P, Persona 5 Tactica, Diablo 4, Mortal Kombat 1, and I think that might be it for honorable mentions. Because I wrote down some of the bad games I played too, so I'm not counting. But anyways, as for the games that I have played, let's begin. The year started off with a really strong start for video game remakes, and the Dead Space remake is no exception. This is truly what a remake should be, reinventing its formula while also having familiar territories to its predecessors. It's definitely an improvement after the not-so-great Dead Space 3. It truly understood the term of survival and horror mixed into one. It truly gave us that experience that we all felt when we played the original Dead Space for the very first time, while also having some really strong differences that really separate apart, improving upon it in almost every conceivable way. Dead Space is a bloody good time for oldcomers and newcomers alike. At number 9, we've gotten games like Redfall to come out on Game Pass, which could have been great, but just turned out to be a disaster. And then there are games that came out of absolutely nowhere, like Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush was so inventive, so ingenious with its combat, Devil May Cry style formula, while also having some really catchy beats to snap your fingers to while you're playing the game, though you're going to need both hands on the controller. So it's... well, you can always tap your foot or just hum along to the music. Hi-Fi Rush had it all. Great characters, a great art style, and honestly, it's something that we just needed to play to start off the year. Hi-Fi Rush is one of those experiences where you know absolutely nothing about it, but when you play it, you're all like, oh my god, this is a fantastic game. I would have hated myself if I didn't play this game. If you love Devil May Cry or Bayonetta or all those types of hack and slash games, and you love catchy music, and you love kitty cats like me, because there's a cat in this one, then Hi-Fi Rush is certainly a must-play for Xbox owners. I'm not sure if it will get a PlayStation release, but it's still a game you definitely need to play. At number 8, old fans haven't been appreciating this game that much. Newcomers like myself have definitely been appreciating it a lot more. Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, it doesn't have that same RPG feel as some of the newer action Final Fantasy games, and there are definitely more RPG elements to other newer games to come out that are hack and slash. But Final Fantasy VI has given us a lot of things. A great open environment, a strong cast of interesting characters, a great, fantastic new protagonist, and honestly, I found myself really digging my time with this game, with the amount of content that it has, plus new content coming in, its epic bosses, the amount of quests that it has, though some really managed to boost it up with its storyline. I had a really fun time playing Final Fantasy 16, and honestly, if you're not in for the story, then the gameplay will definitely satisfy. Unless, of course, you're an older Final Fantasy fan and wanted more from its RPG elements, because the older ones had far more RPG elements to them, while this one feels more like just a typical hack and slash game. But for me, I was so invested with what the game had to offer in terms of story and characters and world. It was a game that, for someone who doesn't play Final Fantasy a whole lot, this is certainly a good one to start off with. Though we all know Final Fantasy will always be great for its classic formula. I like the new things that they're trying out here, though they have tried new things before and it didn't work out so well. They're trying new things in here, and for the most part, I feel like they worked really well. Final Fantasy 16, while not everyone's cup of tea, and not the greatest in the franchise, I do think it's one of the greatest new entries in the franchise. Coming in at my number 7 spot is the long-awaited sequel that finally came out and did not manage to disappoint in the slightest, Alan Wake 2. It's been a great year for horror games, and Alan Wake 2 is no exception. Having a great storyline, 2 protagonists, Alan Wake of course, and another character that I actually really enjoyed playing as. Alan Wake really makes you feel like a detective. It gives you so much in terms of mind-bending experience, combining it with some really solid combat action. While it starts off a little bit slow at first, it definitely manages to pick back up, with live-action cutscenes that don't feel all that cheesy, and when they do feel like they're cheesy, they're honestly a lot of fun to watch. That music scene, it was weird, but I absolutely loved it. It has the same atmosphere of the original, while also boosting up its rating to an M rather than a T. It manages to get under your skin in terms of the creepy atmosphere it has, and of course, you making sure not to run out of battery, because you can't kill the enemies without, of course, the battery, because this isn't your typical run and gun horror game. Alan Wake 2 is what I wanted from an Alan Wake sequel. If we do get an Alan Wake 3, I bet that will be worth it as well, because this managed to surpass its predecessor that was already fantastic to begin with. At number 6, The Plumber didn't disappoint this year, both on the big screen and on consoles. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is a wonderful experience. If you love 2D style Mario games but you weren't that satisfied with the new Super Mario Bros. Formula, then Super Mario Bros. Wonder has it all. It has a great lineup of brand new power-ups, new challenges to take on, and it just manages to be a really fun time. Whether you're playing at home or you're playing with friends at home, Super Mario Bros. Wonder has it all for the family. People who grew up with the old style Mario games will manage to have a lot with this game. It is such a fun experience, and it's the reason why we love 2D Mario games. The 3D ones will always be fantastic, but this game really made us miss 2D Mario, and I'm so happy that we have 2D Mario back. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is truly a masterpiece when it comes to 2D side-scrolling Mario games, and proves that the genre for side-scrolling platformers is still alive. Same with 3D platformers. Mario just shows us why we love these types of games. And it just shows Mario is here to stay. Even with Charles Martinet retiring as Mario, it still shows that, you know, even with new voice actors, they can still manage to pull off a good Mario role. Now, Mortal Kombat 1, I did play, I did have fun with it, but in terms of fighting games, I didn't have as much fun with it as I did with Street Fighter 6. A lot of people were disappointed with Street Fighter 5, and if I'm being honest, Street Fighter 6 is the definitive new Street Fighter game that will definitely give old-time fans what they wanted. Old characters, new characters that I enjoyed going up against, a storyline with a world to explore, new moves to unlock, a lot of customization to your character with its storyline. Street Fighter 6 managed to have a lot of meat on its bones when it came out, and chances are it already has more meat on its bones right now, because I didn't go back to playing because there were other games that I was playing, but Street Fighter 6 really had it all with its graphics and its playable characters and the tournament fighting and all that. It has multiple different modes to play, and it just has so much to offer. While Street Fighter V had a mixed reception when it came out, it didn't have a whole lot of content. I mean, sure, now it does, but this managed to have the full package as soon as it was released. And it might just have more content on the way. Street Fighter 6, it's truly the definitive fighting game of the year, in my opinion. Not only was it a great year for video game remakes, but also video game sequels, and Spider-Man 2 definitely didn't disappoint. Probably the best Spider-Man game ever created. Spider-Man 2 manages to take what already made the original game great and crank it up to 11 with a very mature storyline, multiple Spider-Man to play as, Venom. The game, it just had it all. It had everything in this large package with side quest activities to do, the world of New York City. It was just so much fun to play. And it's one of those games where you just want to sit down and just explore every little detail, collect everything, get all the suits. It's a Spider-Man fan's dream. It was a great year for Spider-Man on the big screen and at consoles. Wait, I said this with Mario earlier, but Insomniac really understands the Spider-Man formula. And in fact, Insomniac should just be in charge with superhero video games, because maybe one of these days we might actually get a good Avengers game if they do decide to take on the license. Because Square Enix, they didn't manage to do that so well in 2020. But Yeah, Insomniac proves that they are a company to trust when it comes to these types of games. I had so much fun swinging around in 2018. I had so much fun swinging around in 2020, and I had a fun time swinging with Spider-Man and Miles Morales this year. In terms of the best video game remake to come out this year, easily the best one to come out this year, of course, is Resident Evil 4. I did not think we needed this remake, but I'm happy it exists. It managed to improve its already fantastic predecessor, which is one of my all-time favorite games, and just managed to put so many new tweaks to the game that managed to separate apart from the original game. While it does have familiarities and some slight cut content, it definitely is an improvement over the Resident Evil 3 remake. Resident Evil 4 manages to boost it up with fantastic graphics, great new character designs, and the villain not feeling like a dull, whiny brat, actually feeling like an intimidating villain. Resident Evil 4 managed to take what was already terrifying about the original game and just bring it all back, showing that Resident Evil can still do great things during its remakes. I mean, it went from Resident Evil 1, which was great, 2, which was even better, 3, which was fine, but 4, which was probably the best of the best. Resident Evil 4 Remake isn't just a great remake, it's a great game. And it truly shows that the Resident Evil formula is still alive with some new added features while also adding some familiarities. Resident Evil 4 is a great package for Resident Evil fans and is truly a must-play experience. There is so much to this game that I'm still utterly shocked how good this remake was. It's certainly a must-play. Definitely do not skip out on it. Okay, whoo boy. It's obvious what my top two choices are going to be, but in which order am I going to put them in? It was a really tough choice. I really had to think hard about it because, on the one hand, I'm a massive fan of my next entry of the franchise that it's part of, but on the other hand, yeah. But you know what? I just can't let my impulse get to me. I'm putting Tears of the Kingdom at number 2. I know, shocking, because I'm a massive Legend of Zelda fan, and there's just so much to this game that really makes me want to put it at the top spot. It could have if it wasn't for the next pick, which is the obvious, but yeah, as much as the Zelda fan inside of me really wanted to put Tears of the Kingdom at number 1, it's just due to the fact that I'm not sure which was better, Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Because Tears of the Kingdom managed to do a lot better than its predecessor. But then again, I feel like its predecessor did do things a little bit better than this game. But still, Tears of the Kingdom deserved all the praise that it got. It's a work of art from Nintendo, and they really understand this new Zelda formula that they've been taking upon. They have new different worlds, and sure, people are just saying, well, it's just DLC, when I just call absolute bull on that. It definitely did make me feel like I was playing a new game, while there is a lot of similarities. There are new characters, there's a bottom world to explore. It just has so much that really does separate apart from Breath of the Wild. And you know, it just really shows how much Nintendo cares about the Zelda formula. The way they managed to pull off this entire landscape, and while it doesn't run perfectly, it still looks absolutely gorgeous with little to no glitches at all. And it's just the type of game where you'll just spend days upon days exploring every little single area that there is to explore. It's just wild. Like, this is a wild game, no pun intended. But Tears of the Kingdom, it managed to have it all. The same style with new areas to explore, a massive amount of quests. This is probably the meatiest game to come out this year. Well, almost as meaty as the next pick that I'm going to mention, but Tears of the Kingdom, it's one of those games that's going to be impossible to complete. And it's probably one of those games that I'm probably never going to complete. And you know what? I don't mind, because it's a masterpiece and it's a work of art from Nintendo, and it certainly is one of the best Nintendo games ever made. And it even if you weren't a fan of the game, I feel like the game really deserves respect for the amount of care that the game was put into. I mean, they could have easily messed this up and just having a glitchy mess built to the brim with crashes and all that. But you know what? It's a masterpiece, and you definitely do need to play it. If you have a Switch, then you need to play it. Both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are must-play games for the Switch. And I'm talking about this game far too long that I should probably just get to my number 1 pick right now. Well, if Tears of the Kingdom wasn't going to be my top spot, then of course it was going to be for Baldur's Gate 3. I did not think that I would love this game that much going in, and there were some times where I was really frustrated, but as I got further into the game, I was more intrigued and more invested as I was progressing through this massive experience. The developers went all out here with their Dungeons and Dragons style experience. It's certainly the perfect game for Dungeons and Dragons players. And for a person who hasn't experienced Dungeons and Dragons before, this definitely made me invested in the whole Dungeons and Dragons experience. With a great amount of characters, some you can have relationships with, and a massive amount of side quests, 3 different acts that make the game feel completely different. Baldur's Gate 3, it just has it all. It shows that after the full game came out, after early access in 2017, the game, it felt finished, both on PC and PS5. This is a finished game that manages to have no microtransactions, no bugs or glitches. I mean, it'll have some, but with the amount of patches that it's been getting, it just makes the game feel all the more better. It makes you play in the way you want to play it. Baldur's Gate 3 just has no limits to what it's offering to players. Baldur's Gate 3 is the type of game that when I do finish, I definitely want to talk about it more, because I feel like I didn't talk about enough of it when I did my thoughts on Baldur's Gate 3 video. But after continuing to play more of it, it's one of those experiences that I'm just going to remember for a long time. If anything, it's probably this year's Witcher 3. While I'm not sure if it's that good, it's good. It's more than good. It is a masterpiece, and there's a really good reason why it won Game of the Year and topped so many people's Game of the Year lists, including mine. Baldur's Gate 3 is a work of art, and it truly is the best Game of the Year. I love Tears of the Kingdom. I still think that game is just as good, but Baldur's Gate 3, I feel like because that game had more time spent into it, it's probably why it makes my top spot. It succeeds at every single level, and it truly deserves my pick for Game of the Year. Alright guys, that is it. That is my best games of 2023 list. Let me know what your favorites were down in the comments. I will probably have my best movies of the year list sometime next year. It's all going to depend. I really want to see Poor Things. That's not out in my location yet, though. But who knows? We'll see. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.